Nobody satisfies you about this part. Everyone talks about what to add after you retire. Add hobbies, add exercise, add social clubs, add purpose, but almost nobody talks about what to remove, and that is where most people get it wrong.
After 65, most people keep living the way they always did. Same habits, same obligations, same pace. But your body has changed. Your energy has changed. Your time has changed. The only thing that hasn't changed is how much you're still carrying. And that's the problem. The retirees who struggle the most aren't the ones who have the least. They're the ones who never learn to let go, to subtract, to make life lighter instead of heavier. A long-term study out of Stanford's Center on Longevity found that the retirees who reported the highest life satisfaction were not the wealthiest or the healthiest. They were the ones who had deliberately simplified: fewer obligations, fewer possessions, fewer unresolved emotions. They subtracted, and in doing so, they found something most people spend a lifetime chasing: peace. Today, we are going to walk through 5 things you must cut back on if you want your later years to feel light instead of heavy. These are not theories. These are patterns, exposed in one conversation after another with real people who are living this right now. And at the center of those conversations is a woman named Evelyn. The first thing to cut back on is relationships. Not all of them, just the ones that leave you more tired than before you walked out the door. Evelyn is 74. She lives alone in a small apartment in Portland, Oregon. 5 years ago, her weekly calendar looked like a part-time job. Monday was her church group. Tuesday was a lunch with former colleagues. Wednesday was her neighborhood walking circle. Thursday was a friend's standing coffee date. Friday was errands and phone calls, always returning someone's call. By Sunday, she was exhausted, not from moving, from people. She told me once, "I was seeing 40 people a month and feeling lonelier than ever. Every gathering felt like a performance, everyone showing their best version, their best news, their best family update. And I'd sit there smiling, nodding, pretending everything was fine. Then I'd come home, close the door, and feel completely empty. Not because my life was bad, but because I'd spent 3 hours pretending instead of connecting." Harvard's Human Flourishing program published a finding that stuck with me. Maintaining more than 15 obligation-based social contacts after retirement raises cortisol by an average of 23%, and paradoxically increases reported loneliness. More people, more loneliness. It sounds backwards, but it is not. Because the issue was never quantity. The issue was always depth. Evelyn made a decision most people would call extreme. She stopped attending every group, every gathering, every standing appointment. She kept only the people who made her feel lighter after a conversation, not heavier. She told me, "I didn't count how many I kept. I just noticed who I actually missed when I didn't see them. That was my real list, and it was short, and it was enough. I started spending real time with 6 people, and I gained everything." Brené Brown once wrote, "We do not need to be loved by everyone. We need to be truly known by a few." That is what Evelyn chose. Here is a practical step. Open your phone right now. Scroll through your recent calls. Ask yourself, after I speak with this person, do I feel lighter or heavier? If the answer is heavier more often than not, that is a relationship you can quietly step back from. You do not need a confrontation. You just need a little distance. Protecting your energy is not selfish. It is survival. The second thing to cut back on is greed. Not the ugly kind, the quiet kind, the kind that whispers, "just a little more, and then I will be happy." There was a man named Harold, 80 years old, lived in upstate New York. He spent 40 years saving carefully, methodically, brilliantly. Every dollar had a purpose. Every expense was questioned. He lived below his means for decades, always telling himself there would be time later. His bank account crossed $1.4 million, but somewhere along the way, later became now. And now looked nothing like he imagined. The trips he postponed, he no longer had the stamina for. The friends he kept saying next time to, some were gone. The restaurants he promised himself, his appetite had faded. He told his daughter, "I was so busy preparing for the future that I forgot to live in the present. The money is still here, but everything I wanted to spend it on has already left." MIT's Age Lab found that 68% of retirees say their single greatest regret is not spending more on experiences while they still could. Not investments, not savings, experiences. The dinner with friends, the weekend trip, the afternoon at a bookstore with a cup of coffee and nowhere to be. Evelyn understood this early. Every week she spends exactly $40 on what she calls her joy budget. Fresh flowers for the kitchen table, a cappuccino at the cafe around the corner, a used book from the Saturday market. None of it is expensive. All of it is deliberate. She once told me, "I am not rich, but I am not waiting to live either." Seneca wrote, "It is not that we have a short time to live, but that we waste a great deal of it." Evelyn wastes none. And here is the part no one talks about. The FBI's Elder Fraud Report shows that Americans over 60 lose more than $3.4 billion a year to financial scams. $3.4 billion. The pattern is almost always the same. A retiree with savings, a desire to grow that money just a little more, and a stranger who promises easy returns. Greed does not shout. It whispers, and it preys on the quiet fear that what you have might not be enough. Cut back on chasing more. Start spending on now. The third thing to cut back on is talking. Not conversation, not connection, just the kind of talking that costs more than it gives. After 65, words carry more weight than they used to. When you were young, a careless comment could be forgotten by Friday. But in your later years, one wrong sentence can damage a relationship permanently. Trust becomes harder to rebuild. Memory becomes more selective, and people remember the sting longer than the context. There is a man, 62, who confided his financial struggles to his closest friend. He was worried about retirement and thought sharing the burden might help. Instead, the friend told two other people. Within a month, his private struggle was public knowledge. He said, "I lost more than a friend that day. I lost my dignity. I will never share that part of my life again." After 65, there are 4 speech habits that quietly push people away. Nagging, repeating the same instruction as if no one heard you the first time. Repeating, telling the same story to the same person without realizing it. Complaining, turning every conversation into a list of what is wrong. And insisting, refusing to accept any opinion that contradicts your own. Mayo Clinic research shows that people who engage in chronic complaining produce 32% more cortisol, the stress hormone, than those who do not. The complaining does not release stress, it creates it. Evelyn developed what she calls her 3-sentence rule. Before she speaks, she asks herself 3 questions. Is this necessary? Is this kind? Have I already said this? If the answer to any one of those is no, she stays quiet. She told me, "I used to fill every silence with words. Now I let the silence sit. And I have never been more respected in a conversation." Epictetus said, "We have 2 ears and 1 mouth so that we can listen twice as much as we speak." After 65, that ratio should be even wider. Here is a practical step. The next time you are in a conversation, try this. Listen for twice as long as you speak. Do not interrupt. Do not prepare your response while the other person is still talking. Just listen. You will be surprised how much more people want to be around you. Not because of what you say, but because of how you make them feel heard. The fourth thing to cut back on is food. Not flavor, not enjoyment, just volume. This is not a diet conversation. This is a physics conversation. After 65, your metabolism slows by 15 to 20%. Your stomach empties 25% slower. Your body does not process large meals the way it used to. And yet, most people eat the same portions they ate at 40. There was a woman, 76, who told her family that her single greatest regret was never learning to eat less. She said, "I was fine through my 60s. My body handled it. But the moment I turned 70, everything changed. My digestion slowed. My blood sugar spiked. My joints hurt more. I wish someone had told me to start eating smaller meals 10 years earlier." The NIH published a finding that even a 5% reduction in body weight in adults over 65 leads to measurable improvements: less joint pain, better circulation, lower blood pressure, and improved sleep quality. 5%. For a person weighing 180 pounds, that is just 9 pounds. Not a dramatic transformation, a quiet adjustment. Evelyn eats 5 small meals a day instead of 3 large ones. Her plate is never full. Her meals are never rushed. She chews slowly, 30 times per bite, she says, and she stops eating when she is 80% full. The Japanese call this hara hachi bu. It is one of the oldest longevity principles in the world, and it costs nothing. Here is what matters most. Cutting back on food does not mean cutting back on nutrition. It means cutting back on volume while increasing quality. More protein, more vegetables, fewer empty carbohydrates, a handful of nuts, a piece of fish, 2 eggs in the morning. The goal is not to eat less. The goal is to eat right, and to eat just enough. The 5th thing to cut back on is the past. And this is the hardest one, because the past does not feel like something you are carrying. It just feels like who you are. After 65, memory becomes a strange companion. The present can feel foggy. What did I have for breakfast? Where did I leave my keys? But the past becomes sharp. Conversations from 30 years ago replay in perfect detail. Regrets from decades past surface without warning. Old wounds that seemed healed suddenly reopen. Cornell University's psychology department found that 71% of adults over 65 carry at least one unresolved regret that affects their daily mood. Not a distant memory, an active weight, something they think about while eating breakfast, while lying awake at night, while looking out the window on a quiet afternoon. A man in his late 70s, a retired engineer, spent most of his life replaying the same decisions. The business he never started, the risk he never took, the relationship he walked away from too soon, and the resentment sat right beside the regrets. The partner who cheated him, the promotion that went to someone less qualified, the years he spent proving himself to people who never noticed. One evening, at a community dinner, he sat across from a man roughly his age. But this man looked different. Not younger exactly, but lighter. Like he wasn't carrying anything heavy. The engineer said, "How do you do it? How do you sit here looking so calm when life has probably hit you just as hard?" The man smiled and said, "It hit me plenty. But a few years ago, I made a decision. I decided that everything behind me had already taken enough from me. I wasn't going to let it take my last good years too. So I put it all down, not because those people deserve forgiveness, but because I deserve peace." Harvard's forgiveness research confirms it. People who actively practice forgiveness show lower blood pressure, improved sleep quality, and a 35% reduction in symptoms of depression. Forgiveness is not a gift to the person who wronged you. It is a gift to yourself. It means, I will no longer let this moment from the past own my present. Evelyn carried a grudge against her older sister for over a decade, something that happened when their mother passed. An argument over decisions that should have been made together but weren't. For years, every family event had an invisible wall running through it. They'd be in the same room but never really in the same conversation. Then one afternoon, Evelyn was cleaning out a closet and found an old photograph of the two of them as children. She stared at it for a long time. She didn't cry. She didn't call her sister. She just sat down, took a deep breath, and said out loud to no one, "I'm tired of this. I'm not doing this anymore." She told me later, "I didn't forgive her that day. I don't even know if I've fully forgiven her now. But I stopped letting it run my life. And that night, For the first time in years, I didn't lie awake thinking about it. Brené Brown wrote, "Owning our story and loving ourselves through that process is the bravest thing we will ever do." Evelyn owned hers, and she set it down. Here is a practical step. Think of one thing that still bothers you when the house gets quiet. A regret, an old argument, a decision you wish you'd made differently. Now ask yourself honestly, is holding on to this making my life better? If the answer is no, then give yourself permission to set it down. You don't have to resolve it. You don't have to make a phone call or write a letter. You just have to tell yourself, this has taken enough of my time. I'm choosing today over yesterday. So here they are. 5 things: relationships, greed, talking, food, the past. Cut back on these 5, and what fills the space will surprise you. When she cut unnecessary relationships, she finally had room for the ones that actually filled her up. When she cut greed, she realized the coffee she drank this morning was worth more than the savings she'd stressed over for decades. When she cut talking, people started leaning in closer instead of pulling away. When she cut food, her body started moving like it remembered something it had forgotten. And when she cut the past, she woke up one morning and realized she hadn't thought about it in a week. That was the moment she knew she was free. Let me walk you through Evelyn's morning. She wakes early, not because she has to, but because her body just does now. Coffee is the first thing, always by the window. She doesn't check her phone, she doesn't turn on the news, she just sits and watches the morning arrive, then she moves. A short walk, nothing ambitious. She pays attention to small things, the way the air smells different in the early hours, the neighbor's cat sitting on the same fence every morning, the sound of someone starting their car down the street. When she comes home, she reads, not to learn anything, not to stay sharp, just because she enjoys it. Later, she might call a friend, short conversations, light ones, the kind where you hang up smiling instead of drained. The rest of the day is open. Some days she cooks something slow. Some days she puts on old music and hums along while folding laundry. Some days she does absolutely nothing, and those, she told me, are often the best days. Here is something you can use tomorrow morning. 5 questions, 1 for each thing we talked about today. Your morning checklist. Ask yourself these 5 questions every day. 1. Did I protect my energy from draining people? 2. Did I spend a small amount on something that brings me joy? 3. Did I listen more than I spoke? 4. Did I eat just enough and no more? 5. Did I let go of something old that was weighing me down? You do not need to answer yes to all 5. 3 out of 5 puts you ahead of most people your age, and if you can answer yes to all 5, you are already living the retirement most people only dream about. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "Very little is needed to make a happy life. It is all within yourself, in your way of thinking." He wrote that nearly 2,000 years ago, and it is still the most accurate description of retirement I have ever heard. Happiness after 65 is not about adding more. It is about keeping less. Less noise, less weight, less pretending, less holding on. There is a comment I read once that I have never forgotten. Someone wrote, "I exercise alone. I listen to music alone. I sing karaoke alone with a Bluetooth speaker. I go grocery shopping alone. I cook a nice meal alone. And I have never been happier." That is not loneliness. That is freedom. That is what cutting back looks like when it is done right. Here they are, all 5. One screen. Take a screenshot, put it on your fridge. Share it with someone who needs to hear this today. Evelyn is 74. She lives alone. Her apartment is small. Her circle is tiny. Her meals are modest. Her phone is quiet. And she is the most peaceful person I have ever spoken with. Not because her life is perfect, but because she stopped pretending it needed to be. If any part of this video made you pause, even for a second, then you already know which of the 5 things to start with. You do not have to change everything. You just have to cut one thing. And you have to start today. Because the difference between a peaceful retirement and an exhausting one is not money or luck or genetics. It is what you choose to stop carrying. It is what you decide to set down. And that decision is available to you right now, today, this moment. If this message meant something to you, I have a small favor to ask. Hit the like button. It helps more people find this video. Subscribe if you would like more conversations like this one. And if there is someone in your life, a parent, a friend, a neighbor, who you think needs to hear this today, please share this video with them. Sometimes a single link from someone who cares can change the way a person sees the next 10 years. Leave a comment. Tell me which of the 5 things you are cutting first. I read every single one. I will see you in the next video. Take care of yourself and take care of each other.